But on Jill Biden and looking at this, she had a quote today to the Washington Post about Nancy Pelosi's role in Biden getting out of the race. And she said, quote, "We were friends for 50 years. Imagining she was using her teacher's voice. She said, quote, "It was disappointing." You know that Jill Biden is very careful with how she uses her words. What did you make of that moment?
Well, it's the first I'm hearing of it, but what I make of it is that she may well have wished that Speaker Pelosi had engaged directly with them rather than orchestrating a campaign to try and get President Biden to step down from the race. Ultimately, it was the right thing for him to do for his candidacy, for the country, for the party. But I do think there were some hard feelings about how that happened. At the end of the day, what matters most is that today, tonight, in that speech and in our conversation, I'm reflecting on the remarkable things that President Biden got done. He ran on bipartisanship. He spoke at his inauguration about working across the aisle. There were lots of folks who thought he wouldn't be able to get much done in a badly divided Congress, inaugurated just 2 weeks after January 6th. And in the end, he signed into law bipartisan bills that did more for infrastructure, gun safety, investing in veterans, rebuilding manufacturing than any president in decades. It's a really strong record of accomplishment.
He's leaving office despite that with an approval rating that matches when it was at his low.
All right, guys, so we got to expand on our coverage of Biden's terrible, disastrous farewell speech last night that I think is probably one of the most hypocritical speeches I've ever heard from a president. And Biden doing this speech was boohoo-whining and crying and feigning outrage over the technocracy and the oligarchy. And I found this to be hilarious because Democrats should be the last people that are warning about and boohoo-whining and crying about an oligarchy and technocracy. And I want to expand on this. I want to talk about it and really just get into the hypocrisy because it really is stunning. The fact that somebody wrote this speech for Joe Biden, because he damn sure didn't write it. Somebody wrote this and said, yeah, we're going to go out and have Biden say this in his farewell speech. Something that Democrats have absolutely zero room to talk about whatsoever. But of course, MSNBC, who has made Rachel Maddow go back to work, right, due to the fact that Trump is going to be in office, okay? This is their Hail Mary to save their ratings, okay? They made Rachel Maddow actually show up. Yeah, she's already running propaganda on behalf of the Democrats, along with The View as well, too. As, again, they fake outrage over something that they support.
I had wondered, okay, well, they're not taking a lot of time in this speech. They have spelled out the list of accomplishments in writing ahead of the speech. So maybe this speech is going to be for something else. Maybe this is going to be a warning. I did not expect it to be this stark. As you said, he said, tonight there is an oligarchy taking shape in America. Dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people, a tech industrial complex that poses real dangers. He talked about a tide of misinformation and disinformation enabling the abuse of power. Not just saying misinformation and disinformation are bad on their own, but why are they there? They are there to enable the abuse of power. He talked about the free press crumbling, which put a shiver down my spine. And then talked about how truth is being sacrificed for lies for the purposes of power and profit. So this is important because he has essentially decided not to brag on the way out about what he did. He did a little of that, but really he's taken this last moment to say, here is what we've got right now, and this is why. This is not just dangerous because it doesn't sound American. It's dangerous because this is what they're doing to you with this oligarchy, with this concentration of power, and with what they're doing to the press and the truth. And that is stark and sober, and like I said, it put a chill down my spine. I think he's correct, and I'm glad he took this time to say it.
You know, I really miss Biden. I feel like we were safe. Like, I didn't have to worry. Was everything going to blow up? Well, I could live my life while he was there. Now, every day I wake up and I worry, what is this guy going to do next? Yeah. And these oligarchs, can I just say one more thing and then I'll shut up?
No. You don't have to shut up.
They need to start shelling their money out. These guys, Bezos and Musk, they give it to Trump. Yeah. Do they think that they're going to live forever, these people? You know, everybody dies. I hate to break it to them, but you are not going to live forever. According to the World Food Program, we could end world hunger by 2030 with $40 billion. That's all it would take. And he, Elon Musk, his net worth grew by $170 billion in the month after the election.
Oh, just wait.
Yeah. Just keeps making more and more money, and nothing is done with that money to help people. It's just to increase their power.
What's really kind of sad, somebody said to me yesterday, why do you think they haven't given anything to California?
Wow. Absolutely an incredible level of propaganda there from the mainstream liberal media. Okay, did you guys hear Rachel Maddow? It sent shivers down my spine, right? Who watches this? Okay, I'm sitting thinking, do people really watch Rachel Maddow and they listen to that and they think that this woman actually really feels that way, right? I mean, she's clearly an actor, clearly. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this CNN panel and their discussion about Biden's fake outrage, crying about the oligarchy and the technocracy.
I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules, pay their fair share of taxes.
Josh Rogan, is he right?
Well, of course he's right, but the part that he didn't mention is that both parties are participating in this oligarchy. There's gambling in the casino. The corruption didn't start with Donald Trump. He's just less bashful about it than most. But the fact is that President Biden was president for 4 years. You didn't see him advance legislation for campaign finance reform. You didn't see him take up the mantle of getting money out of politics. Kamala Harris raised $1 billion in a month. So for him to say, oh, wait, I'm warning about the oligarchy, of course he's right. But it's a little too late. That's what I said.
I think you're probably right about most of that. But what is happening right now is that a handful of major companies and the ones that the men that lead them are saying in the next 4 years is going to be a make or break for AI. And the person who gets closest to Donald Trump the fastest and gives him the most money is going to win that race. Mm-hmm. That's extraordinary.
Yeah. So what I find to be hilarious about this, okay, is the fact that this is clearly and obviously fake outrage, because all these things that they claim that they're concerned about are things that they should have been concerned about years ago when Biden and Kamala Harris was in office, right? Like, for example, these people are now claiming that they're so concerned about the technocracy that's taking place, right? And that these tech billionaires are going to have so much power and control. But who passed the CHIPS Act? That was a core piece of Democrat and Biden-led legislation. Now, what does the CHIPS Act do? It essentially subsidizes, but it encourages semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. Semiconductors are a major component of essentially every piece of technology, every computer that we have in the world. And Democrats were totally on board with helping out the technocracy. Just a few years ago, Democrats were totally on board with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and Google and all these other big corporate tech giants just a few years ago when they were supporting Democrats. When they were censoring on behalf of the Democrats, they didn't have a problem with it. Now, all of a sudden, big tech realizes that, okay, well, censorship is not popular, right? We should probably stop doing that. Now, all of a sudden, oh, big tech, so dangerous. We need to watch out, right? Biden didn't tax the rich. In fact, the rich got richer under Joe Biden. It's called asset inflation. The poor got poor and the rich got richer. Why is that? It's because the rich own assets, okay? This is why they're rich. The poor tend to not own as many assets. This is why they're poor. Biden didn't tax the rich. He did nothing about the things that he's currently complaining about. In fact, again, he embraced these things when he was in office. He embraced it. He subsidized big tech. But not only that, the Democrat Party is an oligarchy. In fact, Jill Biden came out and essentially attacked Nancy Pelosi due to the fact that the Democrat Party oligarchy overthrew Joe Biden.
So we heard from Jill Biden this week in a Washington Post story, and she talked about Nancy Pelosi and her role in pushing Biden out. She said, "I've been thinking a lot about relationships. It's been on my mind a lot lately." She paused. "We were friends for 50 years. It was disappointing."
She threw him under a bus. What do you expect?
Well, yes, but I mean, maybe this is expecting too much from the First Lady, but it seems like there is no reflection on Joe Biden's decision to be there.
It wasn't what she did, it was the way she did it. Listen, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries were also pressuring Joe Biden to get out, but you weren't hearing about those private conversations every time you turned on.
Listening. I mean, I think that's why the temperature had to get turned up.
I think the reflection that we will all need to acknowledge is that Joe Biden should have never run for re-election.
But why did Joe Biden run for re-election? Well, the reason why is because the oligarchs of the Democrat Party, the small group of powerful individuals, all of whom are very, very, very rich, they decided that, we're totally fine with Joe Biden being able to continue to run. In fact, they went out of their way to essentially overthrow their own primary to make sure that Joe Biden was going to be the nominee. They didn't allow a fair primary for others to come in and challenge Joe Biden. And then once they figured out that Joe Biden couldn't win, they overthrew Joe Biden and they replaced him. Y'all remember the letter that George Clooney wrote? Which basically was one of the first dominoes to fall in order to pressure Joe Biden to get out. What did they say? Well, they said the Hollywood elite, which apparently helped run the Democrat Party, right? And the rich, hey, we're not on board with donating to the Democrat Party or Joe Biden's campaign as long as he's the nominee. So you got to overthrow him. Sounds to me like an oligarchy. Just saying. And Biden didn't want to drop out, but he was forced to because the oligarchs wouldn't support him if he stayed in the race. They would guarantee he lost to Trump. Again, where was the complaints? Where the boo-hoo-whining and crying about the oligarchy? About the rich having so much power and control? Joe Biden is replaced by Kamala Harris, and you have billionaires like Mark Cuban openly buying Kamala Harris, okay? And you had the DNC, everybody remembers probably Chris Cuomo's best segment ever, where he talked about the billionaires and millionaires looking down on the peasants as the Democrats pretend as if they're going to tax the rich, right? We're going to fight against the rich. Rachel Maddow, that didn't send shivers down her spine, right? She wasn't so concerned about the influence of money in politics when Kamala Harris was raising $1.5 billion. In fact, no, they were actually bragging about it. They were kiki and ha-ha about, Trump's not raising that much money, but Kamala has billions of dollars, right? They were celebrating this stuff. Now, all of a sudden, Democrats have lost, Biden's leaving, and now they want to boo-hoo, whine, and cry about an oligarchy and billionaires having influence on the government when billionaires have been running the government for the longest time now, especially the last 4 years. Didn't Biden give George Soros a presidential medal? Didn't Biden just give one of the main billionaire influencers, oligarchs of the Democrat Party, a presidential medal? What did George Soros do to deserve that? Oh, wait, he financed woke DAs getting elected across the country in these liberal cities that led to chaos and destruction, people losing their lives. But he gets a medal for that, though. Why? Because he's an oligarch, because he's a billionaire, and he's on the side of the Democrat Party. See how this game works? It's just so hilarious to me to hear these people boo-hoo, whine, and cry about something they 100% supported for the last 4 years straight. They embraced it. They loved it. Democrats forcing Joe Biden out of the race showed the world who actually runs the Democrat Party. And it damn sure is not the people. So again, I just find this to be hilarious. I really do. This fake outrage that we're seeing here.
To think about.
You know, we celebrate in America the American dream. It's our number one export. Zuck was a college student once. Look what he's created. How many jobs? How much taxes has he paid? Elon Musk, maybe the most successful entrepreneur in history. Another aspect of the American dream, just showing you what can happen. We should be celebrating this. And by the way, that message that Biden put out there, that was Harris's probably number one message during the election. How'd that work for her? Not so well.
You think that was her number one message?
I think so.
I don't think so. I think
no. Remember she said,
I agree.
We have Trump coming and all the bad things about concentration of wealth. Americans appreciate the ability to pursue the American dream every day. And we do not push down on success ever. So, yes, Musk is rich. So what? Zuck,
I don't think
rich,
the issue is how
and
rich
everybody else comes to this country almost drowning in rivers or getting cut under barbed wires to get in here to pursue their dream. Why do we ever think that we should bash their success?
Ashley,
What are you talking about?
Ashley, I want you to get it, but let me just say this. It is not about how rich they are.
Exactly.
Just to observe what he's
They're not
talking
rich
about here.
enough, is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying that actually what got them there, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, they all got to where they are because they came up with good ideas. They built big, good businesses.
Let's punish them.
And no. And they did so largely without having to do what they are doing now. The fact that they have to do it now, I think, actually is a change for them. They were not going to Washington themselves groveling toward the political leaders to try to keep their businesses afloat.
Yeah, they were disruptors.
It's hilarious how these people, all of a sudden, they're so concerned about the influence of billionaires on politics. When again, they were totally quiet about this. Again, where was Abby Phillip when Mark Cuban was openly running around campaigning on behalf of Kamala Harris? So it's just hilarious to me that these people are fake outraging over this, right? And it shows you what Democrats are going to boohoo, whine, and cry about for the next 4 years, right? They're going to go full socialist, essentially. And they're going to be talking about how, the rich are bad, the rich are evil, because they're aligned with Trump, right? And now they have such a big problem with their influence over the government. Now, here's why I stand on this. Personally, for me, I am very excited about the Trump administration, okay? Because what's happening right now is no different than what happens in any administration, Democrat or Republican. But the difference is that Trump is a businessman, and we have actual businessmen in charge, leading the government, which I would much rather have than a bunch of socialists whose strings are being pulled by billionaires, by the way. Let's be real. But left-wing billionaires, okay? I would much rather have a billionaire in office or a businessman that actually has built something than a politician who's in office getting rich while pretending to be against the rich, right? But when you have a businessman in office, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for the country. And the reason why I say that is because one of the biggest problems with our government right now is the fact that they're really, really, really bad at capital allocation. Now, what separates the rich from the poor? And what I mean by the rich, I don't necessarily mean the billionaires. I mean regular, everyday, normal people who work normal jobs who happen to also get rich or build their wealth. Why are they able to build their wealth? The reason why they're able to build their wealth is because they're good at allocating capital. That is the fundamental difference between the rich and the poor, okay? The poor, generally speaking, are not good at allocating capital. They waste their money. They're not very frugal. They don't put their money in places that are going to return a positive return on investment. But when you look at people who tend to be more successful, they tend to be good capital allocators, okay? They tend to invest. They tend to know how to spend their money. We have a bunch of people in office right now who've never run a business, who've never built anything. They pretend as if they hate capitalism, but yet they're getting rich in office at the expense of everybody else. And look at the result. Look at California. Look at Chicago. Look at all these liberal cities. They're run by socialists. And they've been run into the ground. This is how you get stories out in California where they spend billions of dollars to stop homelessness, but yet homelessness gets worse. Well, how does that happen? Again, that's what happens when you have a bunch of people who've never run a damn thing, who've never built a damn thing, spending your money. So again, would I rather have a bunch of woke socialists and progressives who are being controlled by billionaires, by the way, right? Would I rather have a bunch of them running the government and just blowing money, helping themselves and their progressive partners and liberal partners, liberal friends get rich, versus having a businessman in office who is thinking about how to efficiently allocate capital to help this country grow, to generate a positive return on investment? to take this country to the next level, to foster economic progress and prosperity. I'm taking a businessman every single time. I would much rather have somebody running this country who's actually built something than people who've never built a damn thing in their life and got rich being in government off the taxpayer dime. I'm just saying. So why these people boohoo, whining, and crying? I actually love the team that Trump has built. Absolutely love the team that Trump has built. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to win. I want America to win. And for America to win, we need strong business leaders, strong businessmen leading this country. That's what we need. And this is not something that people should be afraid of. Because everybody can take advantage of the benefits if you invest. If you pay attention to the news and you understand, okay, well, hey, the AI race is happening. I might want to look into companies who are invested in AI. I might want to look into companies who are into semiconductor manufacturing, right? This is not hard stuff. But normal, everyday people have to pay attention because there's nothing stopping people from benefiting from the fruits of capitalism and the progress and innovation that I'm hoping will happen over the next 10 years. But people have to pay attention and they have to invest. You got to invest. And this is going to be an approach that I'm going to start to take in some of my videos moving forward, because there's a lot of boohoo, whining, and crying and too much embracing of more socialist tendencies that I really don't like. And people have to get their head out of the sand and stop feeling like, oh, woe is me, and say, all right, you know what? How can I take advantage of the same things that the rich are taking advantage of in order to benefit from the growth and prosperity, to not get left behind? You got to understand what's going on, and you got to put your money in the right places. It's really that simple. And there are going to be plenty of opportunities to do that because Trump is going to make the country stronger. We're going to get richer, and there will be plenty of opportunities for people, everyday normal people, to take advantage of it. But you got to be disciplined. You have to have delayed gratification, and you have to be willing to take risk. And you can't have this woe is me attitude, screw the rich, because you can sit around and complain about the rich all you want, but that's not going to stop the rich from getting richer. You got to understand, okay, how can I take advantage of the same things they're taking advantage of and go from there? And that's the way I see it. And I personally, hey, America's a capitalist country. Capitalism is what made this country great, and it will make our country greater than ever before. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something that we should embrace. And I'm extremely excited. I'm extremely excited about the next 4 years. I think that we're going to go through an economic golden age of innovation and technology. And that's something that, again, people should not be afraid of and we should not apologize for, because ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that Trump is going to create an economy that works for everybody. But again, it's up to the individual to take advantage of the opportunities to get ahead. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.